Hello, BookTube. It's early morning here. My kids are all at school, and my wife is at work. And I have an appointment coming up um, for a project I'm working on. So I have a little bit of time, and I didn't have any time this weekend. And I wanted to talk a little bit about a short story I read for New World's November. You can find the New World's November content from the various hosts. You just use the hashtag New World's November, and you should be able to find those videos. It's a science fiction, first year of a science fiction event. It takes place in November, which is always a busy month. And it's the brainchild of Scott and Becky over at the Bookish Bryants, a married duo. And it's a very great idea. I've enjoyed it. The advantage for me is that it is short stories this time around. Novellas, some short novels. Obviously, you can read whatever you want for science fiction. That's the point, is to get folks looking at science fiction. And I found a story. So there's themes. The first, what was the first week? This is what happens when you get to be my age. Aliens. And I did well then. I found some stories I liked. And this week, it's this past week, it's already into the time travel, which will be this week. And I'm not a big fan of time travel stories, so I'm going to struggle a bit. But for this last week, it was robotics and artificial intelligence. Now, we live in a time where artificial intelligence is hyped pretty heavily. Doomsday scenarios, all these sort of things. What was it? Watson on Jeopardy beating the champions. But I've always felt it's been a little overstated. It's not really intelligence. It's searching the web. It's a search engine. So you take that same Watson and you have him do something that's not searching the search engines and that sort of thing. It might be a different story. And that's what I found. So I went, and I had no idea what was going to be in this. This is a library book. We had ordered it for our library. And it's called Broken Stars, Contemporary Science, Chinese Science Fiction in Translation. And Ken Liu, the Hugo Award winner, who's had some play on BookTube. So there's going to be a little glare here. There's not much I can do about that because it's got the Mylar cover. And this was published, so these are all in translation. Many of them of the stories were translated for this volume specifically. It's not obviously exhaustive of Chinese science fiction, which is a lot more complex than you can get in one volume. But let's see here. This is from 2019, so it's not that old. And some of you may know Ken Liu is a translator of The Three-Body Problem, which I've read, and for his own stuff. So this story I read is called Goodnight Melancholy. It's from Xia, Xiajia. And they have a little quick introduction about each of the writers. So Xia is, as an undergraduate, Xia, a pen name that should be treated as an indivisible unit, majored in atmospheric sciences at Peking University. She then entered the film studies program at the Communication University of China, where she completed her master's thesis titled A Study on Female Figures in Science Fiction Films. And later she obtained her doctorate in comparative literature and world literature at Peking University, with Fear and Hope in the Age of Globalization, Contemporary Chinese Science Fiction and Its Cultural Politics, 1991 to 2012. And she's now teaches at university. So I obviously I don't know what I'm going to get into when I get into this story, but it was the introduction that convinced me to give it a shot. And they say here, Stories take place in the same near future universe where ubiquitous AI, VR, AR, and other technologies present age-old questions about how and why we remain human in new forms. And tradition and modernity are not simple binary opposites, but partners in a complicated dance. And I certainly agree with that. So, Goodnight Melancholy is a very interesting structurally. You have sections that's on Alan Turing. If those of you are familiar with Turing and Enigma and the early days of this kind of computational search, the technologies are expanding. Let's say, I mean, computers have been around for a long time, but it's an important time in that, and it goes back to a young woman. So that's half the story. It'll flip back and forth, and it's a short story. So it'll flip back. It might be a novella. I don't know. And you'd have Turing talking to a construct he calls Christopher. And then you go to this young woman who has two robotic AI type, almost dolls. They're not even made to look too human. And they're artificial intelligence. And partway through the story, you start realizing that they're therapy. They're there for therapy. So she has some health issues and mental health issues that she's struggling with, and these are used to help her. And also, she has she has an eye wall, so a wall of her house where you can communicate, play music, all these things. And she does have meetings with a therapist there who she's pretty convinced, which is probably often the case, that the therapist probably needs more therapy than she does. And then there's a scene towards the end where they go to Disney World in Asia. So it's very interesting, the back and forth, because the author is able to take this short story and tell us really what is AI. All right, is it intelligence, or is it Watson searching the internet? Is it creative intelligence? So she does have footnotes in this where she'll, okay, this is what I did. This is where this idea comes from. So it might be here I can do. So she has Gary Marcus. Why can't my computer understand me? From the New Yorker from 2013. She has Matthias Engelhardt, Sandra Siebert, and Martin Ziegler, Logical Limitations to Machine Ethics with Consequences to Lethal Autonomous Weapons. Most of the incident from Alan Turing's life are based on Andrew Hodges' biography, Alan Turing, The Enigma. She had some other interesting things here. Hector J. Levesque, On Our Best Behavior, Artificial Intelligence, is where that was published. So she's grappling with things that are in the literature. She is an academic, but the story reads not quite like a scientific academic paper. It has more of that MFA quality of, interior gazing, let's put it. So it's a really interesting story, how it works out. You're left wondering, okay, the artificial intelligence things, did it really help her? Were they really intelligent? And the play off Turing's Christopher, his version, and the main character in the story and their version, is there really any advance, or is it just more of the same? So I found it fascinating. It does get you thinking about artificial intelligence. These things were small little robotics parts, but their function was really to act as artificial intelligence. So it wasn't really a robot story, although you could make the argument that they were also robots. So Broken Stars, an anthology with some works from China. Well, all the works are from China, but it gives you a taste of what the Chinese science fiction scene is like. There's our editor, lives down in Boston, I believe. Yes. And I found it fascinating, and it was good to read some newer things from a different area of the world than I've had experience with before. So very much enjoyed it. I'm going to struggle a little bit when we go to do the time travel this week, so I'm not even sure what I'm going to do. But like I say, this is a great event because short stories, you can find something and get at least one story in. So thank you, BookTube.